Today, let's talk about our veterans, the millions of those who've served their country, the men and women who come home after their service and sometimes need medical or psychological help. The Veterans Administration provides many services to help these veterans. Today, we're at the Butler VA Medical Center. We'll talk with some of the folks who help the veterans through some of their crises. Well, inside the VA Medical Center here in Butler is Director David Cord. He's been here for a year or so, and he's been in the medical system for quite a while. And Dave, we want to talk about veterans and the care they're getting, because most people are very concerned about what they've been hearing about medical care and what kind of conditions they're in and what kind of services are provided right here in Butler. So just exactly what's here for the veterans in this western Pennsylvania area?
Well, I'm happy to share that with you. Here at VA Butler Healthcare, we provide a wide range of outpatient services. So we provide everything from primary care, specialty care, behavioral health services, and then the ancillary programs that go along with that, such as pharmacy, radiology, physical therapy. So that's all done here. We also have 2 residential programs here at Butler. We have our community living center, which is our word for our nursing homes. We have a 60-bed community living center here. And we also have our domiciliary program, which is a residential rehab treatment program. Veterans who have addictive disorders can come and they can spend anywhere from 30 to 120 days here getting programming specifically related to the treatment of addictive disorders.
Now, there are veterans from many different conflicts. Do you have any going back to World War II and World War I?
No World War I veterans anymore. We are still serving some World War II veterans. Yes, we are, and then all the way up through the most recent Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom conflicts as well, too.
Are there services different today? Because we hear the wars have been so different and the conditions of combat have been so different. Are the treatments here very different from what they were 20 and 30 years ago?
Oh, I would say the treatments are continually evolving based upon the needs of the veterans. So, for example, traumatic brain injury treatment is something that has evolved over, I would say, the past decade to 15 years based upon the types of injuries that veterans are now suffering as a result of the wars that we're engaged in. Also, treatment, mental health treatment has evolved over the past few decades as well to offer a variety of services for post-traumatic stress disorder, for example. And there's a wide range of programming for homeless veterans that really over probably the past 5 or 6 years has become, one of the mainstays of the work that we provide for veterans.
How many veterans do you serve right here in Butler?
In Butler, we serve approximately 24,000 veterans. That includes the Butler area and some surrounding counties that we serve as well.
Does every veteran realize that there are services available for them?
Unfortunately, no. And so one thing I would like to encourage is that if there are veterans who are watching this today or family members of veterans, if you're not sure you're eligible for care, please come in, call us, contact us, go online to our website and check us out as well too. Right now, nationally, the VA probably serves about a third of the veteran population, and that's probably a similar percentage for us in the Butler area as well. A lot of veterans might feel that they don't qualify for care. It's simple to come in or call us, and we can go through the process with you to determine your eligibility for care. And if eligible, we can get you enrolled and get your first appointment scheduled that same day.
Well, Dave, why wouldn't some veterans be eligible?
Well, I'm a good example of that. So there's 8 different categories of veterans based upon periods of service, whether you had a service connection, injury, or illness. I fall in Category 8, and because of my availability of insurance and my income level, I don't qualify for care. But there are, like I said, 8 total categories of care, and many veterans who may not think they're eligible or who have may tried in the past, and there could be a difference in their circumstances now. Even if in the past you thought it was determined you weren't eligible, you absolutely want to look into that again.
We keep hearing the phrase post-traumatic stress syndrome, and this is only in recent wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, and some of those other conflicts over there. Is that something that's specialized in here?
I I would say that the term, we may hear that more today than in the past, but I think this is probably a condition that veterans have faced throughout every war and throughout every conflict. It may have been called battle fatigue in the past, for example.
Or shell shock.
Or shell shock. That's another label that it was given in the past. And there's been a lot more research and study and treatment initiatives that have gone on. And really, it's... it is a mental health condition that impacts a lot of veterans who have gone through and experienced things in combat that many of us can never comprehend or understand, and it creates a lot of ancillary issues within their life. And we have very comprehensive treatment when it comes to PTSD to help the veterans and their families cope with that.
We want to talk with some of your staff who treat some of the patients to tell us what they see, what they hear, and what they do. So we'll do that as we take our next step to the next room.
I think that's great. We have really a strong group of dedicated professionals here who work with that and a wide variety of illnesses and injuries that our veterans face. And I have to say that it's really an honor for me to work with, I think, some of the most dedicated professionals in the medical community.
Dave, thanks for inviting us out today.
We appreciate having you. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
One of the problems we hear so much about with veterans is crises and suicide. And Peter Albert is the suicide prevention coordinator here at the VA Medical Center. Pete, how do you get to know who these people are? I would imagine they'd be reluctant to come to you.
Well, that's one of the issues we deal with all the time is people being reluctant to show up. But they can access our services in a lot of different ways. One way is through the Veterans Crisis Line. They call 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, and they get routed to an area of the call center that has VA employees, and they can do a consult that comes to me. If they need immediate services, and maybe it's on a weekend or an evening, they will contact the local crisis team in that person's area. Or the person can walk in, a family member sometimes contacts me or walks in, many different ways that someone can receive services.
I would imagine psychologically it'd be difficult for someone who's going through a terrible crisis, even thinking about suicide, would want to come forward. What would motivate them to do that?
Well, usually it's that altered consciousness that they don't want to do what they're thinking of, but they don't know where to turn. And so that's why they call that crisis line, because it is kind of anonymous. They can call that number, they can text that number, or they can send an email to that number. So a lot of our veterans will call or text, and that's kind of anonymous, but then it gradually progresses to where they do want to see someone face to face.
Isn't it difficult for someone to admit even to themselves that they want to kill themselves?
It is, and that's why they don't talk about it with their family members, they don't talk about it with their peers, and that's why they use these numbers. And that's why we hope to intervene as early as possible and have these numbers available and other ways to contact the VA.
So let's go through the steps. Somebody calls the crisis line or somebody calls the VA Medical Center and they identifies themselves. Where do you take it from there?
Well, right then when they're talking to the person on the crisis number, they will have an assessment. They will have a triage evaluation. And if they need services sent to them right that minute, the crisis line will coordinate that with the local crisis team. Like in Butler County here, we have the Center for Community Resources or maybe the state police, and they will get them now. If it's something that can maybe wait till the next business day, they will send a consult to me, and then I will follow up. But also the veteran or their family member will be given my number too. I get so many calls where somebody says, hey, I just got your number. Maybe they saw it online somewhere, because the VA has a lot of computer email contacts where they can call people, and they can call the veterancrisisline.net is one of the addresses that they can use.
So let's talk about the family members, the father, mother, brother, sister, wife, husband of the person who's going through this crisis. How are they brought into the picture, if at all?
Well, a lot of times that's where we start. It starts with the family member. They're concerned about their veteran, and maybe they aren't accepting the veteran themselves as an accepting, so the family member will call. A lot of times I'm talking to a mother or a father or an aunt, an uncle, brother, sister, and I give them information on how to proceed or what to do. And we have other types of systems where they can get involved with, it's called coach coaching to care, where they can kind of learn what to say to their veteran to get them into the services.
But the veteran might be really reluctant and refuse to come because of all kinds of psychological reasons. What do you do next?
Well, we sometimes use the county crisis teams where they'll make a health and welfare check. A lot of times I'll make a phone call to the veteran. I'll send them a letter. We'll try lots of different contacts to encourage them. And hopefully over time, and for the most part, that does work.
Let's talk about the veteran who does come in. The man or woman comes in here and they finally admit to themselves or to you or to their families that they're really in bad shape. They need some kind of intervention. What do you do next?
Well, my office is here in the primary care clinic because we do not have an ER or an urgent care center here. So this is where people who walk in will come. And maybe they present to one of the health techs outside. We have a pager set up. It's the 440 pager, so they can automatically get in touch with a mental health provider who will come, within probably 20 minutes or so and evaluate that person and get them the help that they need now. But in the meantime, they'll stay with the health tech.
How close to suicide are they when you finally meet them?
Well, it really varies. Sometimes people will have thoughts. They think about the plan that they may use. The vast majority of veterans commit suicide with a firearm. In fact, 65% of veterans use a firearm. So we do a lot of counseling with our veterans about firearm safety.
So they come in here and they talk with you. How long do they meet with you, and over how long a period of time?
It really varies with the individual. I may spend a couple hours with someone just getting to know them getting comfortable with me. If they need to see another provider here, like a med provider, where they might be getting started on some medication for their sleep or their mood, or if they need to go to the hospital, we may use the primary care providers to do what we call medical clearance so that we can get them to the local ER or the Pittsburgh VA hospital.
Think about a person without mentioning a name. Just think about someone who's gone through the process, who you've been successful with. Tell us about that.
It's so nice when they come back in and see you. I mean, sometimes I get cards from people and their family members that acknowledge, that, hey, just thanks for reaching out. Because you never know when you're going to make that contact with someone that's going to get them the help that they need, and it works very well.
So you've had successes, but also some failures?
Well, I don't know if it's failures because sometimes people just do not want to engage in treatment. So that's where we just continue to follow up with them as long as we can, because our veterans have a lifetime commitment with us. They may have gone into service when they were 20 and they may be 50 or 60 now. But, we're still going to have that long-term commitment, so we continue to reach out as much as we can.
Tell us again, those watching today that may need your help or someone in their family does, how can they best get in touch?
Best thing to do is to call 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. They'll route you to that call center. They'll give you contact information. They'll answer questions that you have about next steps and get in contact with me.
Pete, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Next, I think we'll talk with someone who's a psychologist, somebody who deals with the same kind of a problem and others, and we'll find out some more of the treatment programs here at the VA Medical Center in Butler. We talked briefly before about the post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a team leader here. Her name is Dr. Mary Jane NIEBAUER. She's a clinical psychologist here at the VA Medical Center. Just what is post-traumatic stress disorder?
So post-traumatic stress disorder is a psychological condition that results when someone has experienced a traumatic event. It could be many different types of traumatic events. However, here at the VA, we mostly treat combat trauma and also military sexual assault.
Obviously, everybody's different, and their mind is different, and their senses are different. Everybody doesn't suffer from that. Why don't some, and why do some?
The research is somewhat still out on this issue. However, it's the belief in the field that some people have more psychological resilience than others, and that could result from many factors, including parts of upbringing, parenting, stability as a child, things like that. But it's true that only 30% of people who come here who have experienced combat end up with PTSD. So there are many, many veterans who experience combat who do not have PTSD.
Before someone enters the military, they're given batteries of tests and all kinds of examinations. Is there any way of knowing coming in after they join the Army or the Navy or the services that they're prone to PTSD?
There is no way to predict it. As the research has said, the only thing that we've really been able to see that's rather specific is that if you have had a prior trauma, you are somewhat more predisposed. So, for example, if you had, let's say, some type of childhood abuse, or you had a bad car accident or other type of trauma, and then go into the military and experience combat trauma, you're more likely to have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Families, parents, brothers, and sisters might be interested in hearing about this. What are some of the symptoms?
So some of the symptoms of PTSD are things like nightmares, re-experiencing memories of the traumatic events such as combat, difficulty calming oneself down, such as just anxiety throughout the day, particularly when you're around crowds or unfamiliar situations. Also, many people who have post-traumatic stress disorder will avoid situations that might remind them of things that were traumatic for them. So to give you an example of that, veterans who have been in combat situations where there were many people around, such as a market situation in Iraq, might have trouble tolerating going into a place like Walmart or another store that would have many, many people in it that could be perceived as risks.
What can this eventually lead to if someone's not treated?
So we see this, unfortunately, with some of our veterans who have been veterans for a long time, such as Korean and Vietnam War veterans. Many times people will try to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. Some will become workaholics to avoid thinking about the symptoms that they're experiencing. But the unfortunate piece is if it's not treated, the symptoms that I described will become chronic.
Then how do you treat them? Just what do you say to them? What do they learn in the sessions they meet with you?
So we have many different types of treatment now. The research has been ongoing for over 30 years now. We do group psychotherapy, individual psychotherapy, and we have psychiatric medications that also help manage some of the symptoms. At this point within the VA is one of the leaders in evidence-based psychotherapy, and so we do provide those psychotherapies here, and they are psychotherapies who have been shown through research to be most effective with symptom distress.
So you must be learning all the time because you see many successes and sometimes maybe no successes in some areas. So you have to completely adjust your program, I would imagine. Tell us about some of the successes and how you broke through.
So absolutely, you are right. You have to individualize the care for each veteran. Even though I mentioned some symptoms, there are many symptoms, and it can look very different. If you had 10 people with post-traumatic stress disorder, it can look very different. One of the recent successes I had was with a Vietnam veteran who we had completed cognitive processing therapy, which is one of those evidence-based psychotherapies. And he came in one day about 6 months after we had completed that and said that he had not thought about Vietnam in over 5 days. And he had thought about it every other day since returning from Vietnam. So pretty awesome.
That's wonderful. Now, we hear that there are such things as service dogs, that they somehow are brought into the picture, and I know that our company Armstrong is involved with a program now providing a number of service dogs to veterans in this area. Is that a good thing?
Absolutely, in my opinion. So we've had several veterans over the course of time who have come through here with service dogs. One of the experiences I had was in a PTSD group therapy that we had. One of our veterans had brought in his service dog, and another veteran in the group was having a very difficult day with panic-like symptoms, intense anxiety. This veteran's service dog went over to the other veteran and absolutely just laid up on him and put his paws on his chest to kind of soothe him and help calm him down. It was amazing.
There must be another service dog story here somewhere.
There is. So I had a veteran who came in one day, and he was a veteran who was struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. Normally when they come into the office, the service dog will kind of lay either beside the chair or under the chair. At the time, I had an infant who had been up all night, and so I was drinking coffee, trying to get in the mode for work. Well, the service dog, I think, thought that I was having anxiety. So he came over to me in the chair and again, kind of laid on me, a big German Shepherd. And I was like, oh my goodness. But I think it shows you how perceptive and just, how in tune they are with what is going on inside the veteran. So pretty cool.
Other than service dogs, sometimes I hear the word peer support, that sometimes veterans going through the same problems can help other veterans going through the same problem?
Yes, so we have 4 peer support technicians here at Butler VA Healthcare. One of those sits on our PTSD treatment team. And these veterans who are peer support technicians have actually been through issues themselves, whether it's PTSD, substance use, some other type of mental illness. And we find that because they have been through these things, they have a unique way to communicate with veterans who are going through it now and say, this is what my experience was, this is how I got help, let me help you to reach out to the VA and get the help you need.
You've been here at the VA for a number of years, but before that you worked at another hospital. What brought you here?
So I came to the VA mostly because I wanted to learn more about trauma work, and the VA is the leader in the field of trauma work. So I've been able to do that.
Doctor, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Thomas Layton is a psychiatrist here at the VA Medical Center, and you deal with so many veterans with so many psychological problems. At what point do you actually see the patients, or is yours a supervisory position here?
Actually, it's both. So I will interface with clinical staff on a consultative basis, depending on the nature of the situation or needs that a veteran and family are presenting with. Part of my role here is to actually be active clinically as well. So I have my own assigned clinic, and I will provide initial evaluation consultations for both behavioral health staff and primary care staff as well.
We talked to some of your staff earlier about the steps that are taken to deal with some of these veterans. But let's talk about the families of veterans, because they're impacted probably almost to the same extent as the veteran, him or herself.
Yes, that's an excellent point. Anytime a veteran seeks services or has questions, it is our encouragement uniformly to encourage the veteran to have a significant other, family, a parent, present along with them, understand the process regarding accessing services through the VA, through VA Butler Healthcare, and become involved as an important support, become part of their safety plan, know when to call us, and in general be able to support the veteran in follow-up care and access to whatever services are available in the community.
It seems to me that the spouse or the mother and father of that veteran would feel guilty because they don't know what to do, or maybe something they didn't do earlier in life led to this. Do you see some of that sometimes?
I think by and large for a veteran returning from a tour of duty, and particularly a combat zone, I think it's a matter of when a veteran is in some need, and there is a change of behavior that is obvious to family or significant others. Many times it's an issue of not knowing what to do, how to proceed, what resource to access. And I think, and I say with confidence at VA Butler, we really make the effort to promulgate that message to the community in terms of looking to us for any questions, information on resources, crisis resources, to allow the family and encourage them to, along with the veteran, take the first step and be part of that treatment experience.
Every veteran who goes through a combat situation does not suffer with those kind of problems. Do we know why that is?
That's an excellent question. Several factors as to why one veteran with a similar experience may or may not develop symptoms. It could have developmental underpinnings, so how a veteran would develop in terms of their childhood experiences, educational experiences, interface with family, including parents. One common variable, though, the more exposure and the higher frequency of tour of duties seems to augment that risk regardless of background in terms of who might develop a trauma-related disorder.
So it does depend almost directly the number of deployments would determine whether they're susceptible to these problems?
Research is supporting that the higher number of tours of duty, and in particular the exposure to active combat, not in every case, but may predispose a veteran to developing post-traumatic stress disorder.
I want to get into an area that may be difficult or impossible to talk about, and that is something you alluded to a few seconds ago, that sometimes something in their early childhood would make them susceptible to having some problems later in life under combat situations. What does a family do?
Well, I think, number one, a family who is, working with their child who is potentially expressing interest in military experience along the way, I think it just comes down to good core parenting skills, encouraging, promoting resiliency, fostering confidence in that individual, and any early indication that a child might be veering into substance use, for example, or having negative influences in the community, that they should be aware of that, and they should be encouraged to access resources early on. And that would be a general recommendation, whether an individual proceeded to enlist in the military or not.
Let me get back to the basics. If someone watching this program today suspects that there is a problem among their family with a veteran, what should they do?
Well, I would encourage them actually to call our facility. They could use a main number. They could actually show up here with the veteran, or a family member seeking resources can come on their own accord and interact with any one of our staff for resource information, service information, and guidance. So a telephone call is certainly appropriate, but if that family and or veteran feel that there is some urgency to the situation, we encourage them to come on site.
Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much.
It's comforting to know that many thousands of veterans are served right here at the VA Medical Center in Butler year after year, day after day. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.
Armstrong is proud to announce Healing Heroes in partnership with Guardian Angels Medical Service Dogs. Guardian Angels rescues, raises, trains, and donates medical service dogs to assist veterans struggling from disabilities such as PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, seizure disorders, and more. With the support of our communities, Armstrong's Healing Heroes aims to donate 5 service dogs to area veterans in the coming year. Armstrong will be matching all donated funds. For more information, visit us on Facebook. Together, we can unleash the power to heal.